OpTic has proven themselves the most consistent team in the world, placing 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in the last 3 international tournaments. At Champions, OpTic came in 2nd to Loud, barely losing out in the finals. OpTic's map pool was deadly, in particular their quick adoption of the newest map, Pearl. After playing OpTic's Pearl once early in the tournament, Loud first banned the map immediately in every following series. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into how OpTic plays the map. Let's start with the composition. OpTic runs Chamber, Astra, Viper, KO, and Fade. The first thing that jumps out is the lack of a duelist. OpTic instead runs double controller and double initiator. Zero duelist compositions typically struggle to get out of choke points, but have extra utility for taking space. Looking at the B site, there's only one choke point before getting to the site, and it's right at the spawn barrier, meaning contesting this choke is difficult for the defenders. We'll get back to this choke later. B long is wide open, meaning there's no need for duelists in this area, but utility is extra helpful in contesting long control. Moving on to site, the back hallway, sometimes called elbow as well, is probably the most important thing to control. Having control over elbow gives you access to basically all of the angles in which defenders can be reinforcing through. Many teams at Champions use Neon to contest back hall, with a slide in along with relay bolts to stun up anybody playing back there. OpTic instead uses a Viper wall cutting off back hall and a pop flash through from KO in order to take the fight. Because of the lack of any tight choke points on B site, it really means that you can get away with this no duelist composition while scaling up. A site is a little different as it has 2 separate chokes that you can contest as the defenders. The first is right at the spawn barrier, and this choke is much riskier to contest because it's closer to the attacker spawn. Again, we'll come back to this later. The second choke is the main ramp, which functions as a true site choke point. Getting out of this choke is very difficult for a zero duelist composition, so they'll approach this site differently than the B site, largely splitting through mid. Speaking of, let's take a look at mid. The main mid area is designed to favor attackers, as any defenders pushing out into the courtyard will find themselves in a crossfire between top mid and chop. When you gain mid control, you gain access to 2 alternate pathways into A and B sites, Art and B Link. The top section of Art is attacker favorite in a way, as there's only a limited amount of angles to take fights and no crossfires. However, once you get past the upper Art section and into A Link, you can use a smoke to create a crossfire between the connector pathway and the stairs to A main. The Art pathway does have chokes, but it can be argued that having extra smokes and utility is better for clearing a small, tight corridor like this than movement skills on a duelist. On the other side of mid, we have B Link. Getting through double doors can be tricky, but OpTic gets us around with prowlers and flashes. Once you get out of double doors, you're immediately in a crossfire between connector and the bottom of B Link. To get around this, most teams will smoke off one side in order to isolate a fight. Playing double control with Astra and Viper, OpTic defaults the Viper Orb into this position, isolating the fight against Connector and cutting off any angles from bottom link. Finally, we have Connector, which is an extremely weird piece of the map to control. If you have Connector control, it allows access to water, which splits the defender side in half. However, the crouch through makes it impossible to do anything besides find a lurk timing to get through this. Because of the lack of hard choke points and long corridors of mid, OpTic chooses to run double controller, double initiator along with the chamber. Both Chamber and KO can act like a hybrid duelist type role, with KO playing entry and Chamber taking aggressive fights and being able to get out. Double Controller allows constant smoke control of multiple key points of the map, and the double initiators give both information and utility for clearing off the tight angles of the map. Let's now take a look at how exactly OpTic runs defense on this map. I'm going to use the Viper setups as the main reference point for OpTic's playstyle, one, because I'm a controller main, but also because the wall and orb placement determine a lot of how the rest of the team plays. This is the first Viper setup OpTic uses. The wall cuts through B Link and up to top B, towards this first choke point we talked about. OpTic used this setup at the beginning of their match with Loud to contest top B control. Comboed with either a snakebite or gravity well, this wall allows the defense to fight the early round attacker pressure towards top B. It also doubles to cut off link if B is getting split, although this never actually happened in the match. Many teams are using either Astra recalls or a Viper Orb to cross the top B early in the round, which enables either a lurk or push down B, and you really need to establish this top B control before you can do anything or threaten B at all. This Viper wall puts pressure on the attackers early without just forfeiting top B. After placing this wall pre-round, Viper will run over to A site and usually hard anchor with her orb on A main. KO and Fade will play towards Art and Connector, acting as fast rotates to help wherever pressure is applied by the attackers. The one exception to this was Pistol Round, where Viper stayed top B to fight at the wall. They may have been trying to condition Loud to worry about crossing top B before changing their setup later on. Marv almost always places this star to be used as a gravity well to prevent a cross in an Astral Recall, while Ye will usually try to take a forward angle to find a pick and TP out. By holding an angle, he also gives full information to the rest of his team that no one has crossed towards B. This will be a theme across almost all of OpTic setups. The next setup which OpTic uses is very similar, this time adjusting the wall to cut through pillar. This setup is played almost the same with Viper hard anchoring A and Chamber Astra on B. The only real difference is that top B is not necessarily contested with util and instead Ye is given free reign to take the fights. The third setup that OpTic uses is significantly different, using this Viper wall from cubby towards A main, and it cuts off 3 separate chunks. Finesse will throw a molly lineup similar to this one at the start of the round, which lands to cut off any early push through the wall. Victor will either throw a knife or a flash to contest anyone pushing through the molly and then take the fight aggressively, controlling A main. Victor and Finesse sometimes will double up A main or sometimes just fall off. Basically what they're doing is they're threatening an aggressive hold towards A main and forcing either utility or time to clear angles from the attackers. If contested, KO and Viper will often fall off of A main and play towards site, which we have this section of the wall creating a pocket in which you either have to flash through and clear or try to spam, and it's just a huge distraction and creates a ton of playable positions. One thing to note is with this setup, 2 players are committed towards A main. This will notably leave gaps in the rest of the setup. Most of the time, OpTic deals with this by having Crashies play Art and relying on Ye's trademark and B link. If Art gets pressured, Victor will rotate from A site towards A link, and if B link gets pressured, Crashies will Prowler to re-clear while Victor plays Art. Marv and Ye usually do their same B setup, fighting for top B control, but Marv will rotate to bottom B link to create a crossfire with Crashies if necessary. The only other major early round setup that OpTic uses is placing a star in shop here, along with a Haunt and Prowler from B link to contest mid control. OpTic plays the mid round heavily for map control and information. When contesting both extremities, Crashies will play safely for mid information. OpTic usually tries to post Ye up on top B and then rotate Marv off so that Ye is able to get the first pick and then play retake in a 5v4. If Ye and FNS are controlling both top B and A main, that means that Marv, Crashies, and Victor can all work together with all of their utility in order to contest both sides of mid, rotating freely between themselves. There's always going to be one towards B link, one towards Art, and then one who can play as a fast rotate through connector. I want to emphasize these are just trends, and in reality the rounds play out very differently and in very unique ways depending on what happens during the round. So let's take a look at 2 rounds of OpTic's defense and break down exactly what the rotations look like, what utilities being used, and how space is controlled. First, let's take a look at round 12 of the game versus Loud. OpTic starts with the A main control wall and has Finesse solo push for info. Paired with Victor's knife, OpTic establishes that there is no A main control and Victor rotates toward connector while Finesse solo controls A main and Art. OpTic knows that A main is now unknown for Loud and likely will see util usage before Loud is able to retake the space. This allows a heavy lean towards the B side of the map, exactly where Loud has started. Loud has used this Viper wall to cut off B long and establishes long control with a Prowler, knife, and Viper orb to establish Sadak at top B. After establishing this control, Loud leaves Sadak and rotates the rest of their players off. Sadak spams screens, damaging Ye, and a flash forces out the TP. With their B side lean, OpTic has 3 players towards B site. Marv controls back hall, Crashies bottom street, and Ye finds a new line to set up with the operator. Loud now decides to pull all of their players off of B and look towards mid control. Notice the clock. At just about 1 minute remaining, Victor throws the flash for B long and Marv takes a peek. Seeing nothing, OpTic immediately starts rotating players towards the A side. The second KO knife finds nothing mid, while a star on Art creates a crossfire that OpTic can hold. Loud starts to contact A main with a lurk towards mid. Crashy's Prowler finds Aspas, giving the info that it's likely going to be an A split. Look at the positioning that OpTic takes next. Marv drops a star for the A main smoke, while Finesse repositions into his cubby he's created with his wall. Victor is back site, while Marv has picked up an operator that was bought with excess money for last round and is holding the A main line. Marv finds the first pick on main, and OpTic establishes a three-way crossfire with Cubby, Secret, and Flowers, while Crashies rotates through water. Loud tries to walk out with their smokes, but the drop of FNS's wall allows him 2 free kills. It's worth noting that this was the first time where Finesse played in Cubby. With 20 seconds left in the round and in 2v5, Loud has no hope of winning this round. This round was absolutely beautiful from OpTic and shows how they play with space and information with their highly control-oriented composition. First establishing A main control, OpTic uses the map control to stack towards the other side of the map. Once B long control has been lost, OpTic uses a mid-round information play to confirm that a hit towards B isn't coming. Off of this new mid-round information, OpTic is able to check mid for info, confirm that the majority of Loud is towards A site, and set up a beautiful crossfire and surprise Loud with Finesse playing Cubby. Time has been burned down to the extent that OpTic is certain that the hit must come towards A. Next, let's look at round 19 versus Xset. OpTic is set up for their aggressive A main hold with the Viper wall, but the other side of the map is set up slightly different. Ye has moved from B long to mid doors, creating a stronger hold towards mid, while Marv jump spots for info to play retake on B. Ye's trip is on Art instead of Link, and Art is left empty. Victor's knife is dodged by Xset, while Def's knife disables the Finesse wall, triggering a fallback towards site. After contacting towards A main, Xset flashes and slides in to gain control. Finesse brings up his wall, and Victor pops his ult to cancel out the Neon ult. With no weapon on Zekin, Xset decides to wait out the ult. Crashies rotates from Connector to Art and Prowlers to confirm that there's nobody mid. Marv has continued jump peeking on B, seeing no pressure at B long. Right as Marv's first smoke is about to disappear, Victor flashes over, threatening a push through the smoke and keeping Xset back a few extra seconds. Xset starts throwing util for potential exec with a Haunt Flash combo, revealing all 3 members of OpTic on A site. OpTic responds with a Haunt, Seize, and Snakebite, while Xset decides to cancel with about 50 seconds left. After being revealed, Finesse rotates out of Cubby and sets up the Art crossfire with Crashies. Ye has been posted on double doors and finds the opening pick, but is instantly traded before he can TP. Crashies rotates through Connector, dodges the Prowler using Xset's own smoke, and picks up a free kill on Cryo. The Nightfall reveals no one, prompting Finesse and Crashies to rotate back to A. Xset has 15 seconds to get the bomb down on A site, and do successfully spam enough util to give space for the plant. Zekin and Aaron push Flowers looking for an aggressive fight, but Marv and Crashies come through the wall and find both. BCJ is cleaned up soon after. This is, I think, the best round to see how much utility OpTic's Zero Duelist composition is able to bring, and how this composition is able to continually shut down a straightforward A main hit by cycling utility. The initial wall and knife pressure forces a delayed hit towards A main, using both a flash and the Neon slide to get control. Neon's ult is popped, but instantly cancelled by Victor's null command. OpTic is able to continue checking for pressure elsewhere on the map, and continues to correctly 3-stack towards A. Right as the initial Astra smoke fades, Victor uses a flash, further delaying the push. As Xset begins to dump utility towards site, Haunt, Seize, and Snakebite continue to shut down the choke. Xset tries to rotate towards Art, leaving Zekin main, but OpTic has maintained full control of the mid areas, leading to favorable trades. Finally, Xset is forced into an A split with 15 seconds left, but being in man and ult disadvantage, Xset must aggressively push to even out numbers and gets shut down completely. Themes throughout both of these rounds include early map control towards one side of the map, using flashes or other utility to gain mid-round information, rotations based off of the information advantage, cycling utility to continue to delay pushes, and burning time so low that the final push is telegraphed and dealt with easily. Now let's see what OpTic does for the attack. OpTic's attack side is a little harder to break down, as a lot of their game plan is reliant on defaulting for map control and mid-round calling. The one consistent part of their setup is Finesse's orb and wall. The B wall is thrown from shop and cuts off most of the B site as well as elbow, cutting off bottom link as well. The orb is thrown using a lineup similar to this one, and lands in the middle of B link, or sometimes called street. When activated, it cuts off the bottom half of link and allows free fights against anyone playing the connector doorway. It also allows easy access to the most common chamber trip locations. Breaking this trip early on denies information for the defenders. For the rest of OpTic's agents, utility is used less predictably. Most of the time, a star is recalled at top B to allow Ye to cross and work B long or threaten a lurk. Fade and KO usually work together to clear out areas of the map with their utility, usually towards mid. OpTic loves to spread the map using the large map size to their advantage. Sometimes, a B hit will only contain 3 players with 2 lurks elsewhere on the map. OpTic almost never does straight up A executes as they lack a duelist to get out of the A main choke point. Instead, A site will usually be split from Art unless there are powerful ultimates online to compensate for the lack of a duelist. Another really common theme in OpTic's attack half is that they'll push together into a contested area of the map using the utility from their double initiators, and then leave a player behind to control the space. Leaving a player behind serves multiple purposes. First, it pressures the defense and makes them worry about needing to re-clear that area. Second, OpTic can rejoin that player later in the round in order to convert into a faster hit. And finally, if OpTic decides to go elsewhere on the map, that single forward player can turn their position into a lurk. Because Pearl's such a big map, you need to have these forward positions turning into lurks, or the lurker won't be able to join up with the team in time to actually affect the round. Let's go ahead and dive into round breakdowns to understand the general game flow and attack. Unfortunately, we didn't see many attacking rounds versus Loud because of the 9-3 defending half. In the first 2 attacking rounds, OpTic 5-mans mid, looking to trade utility and push into connector from both sides. Loud doesn't really seem ready for this pressure and ends up losing off the back of a bunch of consecutive 1v1s. In the third round of OpTic's attack, they group up as 5 in A main, grab the orb, and then go back to B main. Finesse is left A main and Marved in mid, while the rest of OpTic uses the Viper orb to cross top B, clearing pillar with knife, and securing the KO ult for Victor. OpTic begins a 3-man hit with the KO ult, mollying back hall to get onto site. Finesse, however, has found a lurk all the way through A site and finds Pancata on his rotation. Loud immediately now has to worry about their flank, and Finesse throws a molly to keep Loud focused on him. Loud decides to fight the players at long instead of fighting Finesse, and finds some success, but Finesse finds a timing running out of heaven and cleans up the 2 last members of Loud. This round was a good example of how OpTic loves to spread the map and take advantage of lurks and flanks. Farming the 2 orbs for Victor allowed a relatively easy B hit, and the double lurk is crucial in securing the post plant. Moving on to the map versus X set, round 4 starts with a knife lineup to clear pillar on B. Cryo adapted to this knife in previous rounds, dodges, and goes in after. OpTic sends a Prowler to try and clear pillar, but it gets shot by Zekin. Due to the incomplete clear, Ye takes a very passive angle, not overextending into Cryo's op. Another recalled star allows Ye to cross while the rest of OpTic works mid. A haunt at the bottom of B link allows Victor to check connector and then break the trademark. OpTic immediately transitions back to B long, leaving Marv for a lurk. Cryo finds the opening pick, but it's a fake. Crashies has left the team and taken Spike and rejoined Marved in Art. Ye remains at long and gets spotted by Zekin's jump peek from Halls. Due to OpTic's mid control, Xset is playing extremely far back, holding Secret and Water on the A side. Crashies throws his haunt into Secret and Marved is able to capitalize off Aaron breaking the haunt. Suddenly, Xset has to pivot 3 players off of B, and Ye starts to take the space which has been left behind. As always, forward positions are turned into lurks when space is created on the other side of the map. OpTic smokes close and doesn't attempt to push back site, knowing that Xset lost their smoker. All of OpTic's site players fall off to main, and Crashies rips his ult and hits 3 site players. Ye uses this to start running up from behind with no sound cues. Cryo could potentially have heard, being unaffected by the Nightfall, but in the chaos and with land sound constraints, Ye gets by unnoticed. Marv's Gravity Well gets the initial tap off, and Ye finds a 2k off the flank in the chaos, securing the round. OpTic begins round 5 spread with a focus towards mid. Xset is also stacked towards mid, playing retake on A. Zekin barely misses a shot on Marv in mid, Cryo gets knifed at pillar, and OpTic immediately groups and heads towards A main. This is one of the only examples of OpTic going for a 5-man A main hit, which is only possible due to the Astral Wall against the low buy. With a Prowler towards Flowers and a smoke on Secret, OpTic begins to hit the site. With their retake setup, Xset doesn't have much site presence, with only BCJ able to sneak onto site. A haunt and knife hold back OpTic at first, but with their own haunt, OpTic begins to contact onto site. I'm surprised that Xset didn't smoke main, but Aaron was also rotating into Secret as this happened, so he probably just didn't have time. Once first contact is made, OpTic bursts forward, cleans up the site anchors, and the round is now unwinnable. Zekin ends up saving the op, and OpTic gets another round. Round 8 comes after an Xset timeout. Cryo's operator starts double doors, and after shooting one Prowler, OpTic forces out the TP with the second Prowler, and wallbangs from top mid. OpTic immediately takes his space and triple faces towards bottom street, dropping the orb to take fights. Cryo plays a really nice angle, giving him a 1v1, and Aaron and Def also swing. Cryo hits a shot, but Aaron is traded out. Ye immediately takes space B, knowing the site players are likely rotated towards the street fight. However, Cryo's game sense is on point, and he wins out the operator duel, leaving OpTic with few options. Def's ult slows down OpTic's push on B long, and OpTic goes to plan B. Zekken has pushed out mid off the pick on Ye, and he posts up in this corner. Marv books it towards A, which is heard by Zekken. Zekken checks the other side and tries to follow Marv after seeing nothing. Unfortunately, the timing is just off and Finesse sees him, leading to Marv turning for the kill. However, off the info play, Xset is able to rotate 2 players to A site, leaving Cryo holding the B line from CT. Marv runs into Xset's crossfire and does pick up the first kill, but is traded out. Finesse barely makes it in time to get the plant down, but he only taps the bomb, looking to force a fight, unfortunately losing his team the round. This was almost a possible round for OpTic, but a split-second decision loses it. I wanted to show this round as a good example of how Xset begins to counterplay the OpTic attack. Mid is heavily prioritized, first using the operator to burn both Prowlers, and then triple swinging the OpTic pressure towards B link. OpTic trades 1 for 1, and Ye tries to take space, but Xset is aware of this possibility and Cryo wins the duel. Zekken takes mid off the B pivot, and is able to feed information to his team with the forward mid control. This directly leads to a crossfire trade for Xset and the clock pressure winning the round. Xset has adjusted their setup to prioritize mid control, and the mid control leads to an informational advantage. Hard anchoring and awareness of lurks is key when OpTic is trying to spread the map. Next, round 10. OpTic starts with 2 top mid, 2 shop, and Crashy's solo B long. Crashy's throws a Prowler which hits Cryo, but a relay bolt and knife force him back. Victor's knife hits the B link side of connector, marking no one. OpTic immediately used the second Prowler and a flash to get control of B link and break Cryo's trip. Once again, OpTic drops their orb to fight bottom street, triple facing, but this time use a snakebite and sees where Cryo played previously. Zekken tries to jump spot, but gets marked by a haunt. OpTic is able to push into connector and fully secure the mid area, with Marv and Ye slowly pushing up Art and linking up. OpTic leaves Finesse in connector and 4-man's A-link, with Ye finding first contact with this operator. With their opening pick on Aaron, OpTic drops the Cosmic Divide and secures site. A-man is not clear at this point, but Xset has decided not to push aggressively. Finesse manages to find a timing on Zekken's rotation through water, leaving Xset in a 3v5. Def and BCJ try to flash through the wall, but are easily dealt with. Now in a 1v4, Cryo is forced to save the op. This round is a great example of how OpTic systematically takes mid control with the entire team. Utility dump in B-link fully secured connector, linking up with the 2 Art players. OpTic then grouped up as a death ball, using Ye's operator to clear the difficult opening angles coming out of Art, and immediately pounced on site. Once again, Finesse was left behind in an area OpTic took control of and converts his position into a lurk and kill, securing the round. The main counterplay Xset could have done against this round was pushing A main and using that position to fight the Art push. However, Xset would have needed to predict that all of OpTic was in mid and expend multiple bodies and utilities to push. Finally, in both rounds 11 and 12, OpTic decides to play with Xset's expectations and simply go for 5-man B hits. Both times, flashes and Prowlers from OpTic are able to find the entry, and Xset is unable to retake successfully. Let's take a look at how OpTic sets their util up for these B hits. Victor's knife lineup clears pillar and his molly lineup clears cubby. Crashy's Prowler follows towards site. OpTic then hits the trip, cuts noise, and drops wall. Zekken has rotated, but because of previous rounds, Xset has continued to hard anchor across the map, not wanting to give up any space. Once Finesse regains gas, the wall comes back up and a Seize clears map. Victor flashes front gen and Marv smokes heaven. Crashy's haunts behind the wall, sending his Prowler towards back hall. Victor gets spammed low, but still flashes through the back hall segment of the wall, full blinding Zekken and gaining control of back hall. With site now secured, Crashy throws his Nightfall towards spawn and Victor pops his null command, fresh off the kill on Zekken. OpTic triples up in halls with Crashy's on gen. After Aaron uses his Cosmic Divide, Marv repositions behind it, while kills trade down to a 2v2. Marv is able to duck into Xset's smoke, pick up the first kill, and immediately swing through the wall for the last. Finally, in round 12, Xset forces up for the last round of the half. OpTic does the exact same utility to clear top B, but this time Xset is aggressively taking mid control. Once again, OpTic cuts noise and then rehits once gas refills. Victor flashes Gen with a Prowler from Crashies, taking out Cryo. Iren is able to find a 3k before getting traded, but Ye answers back on Zekin. BCGA gets the res on Def, but with both players in known positions in Link and fighting into a crossfire, the round goes to OpTic.
He's gonna get the Resurrect online, but now they are swinging for it. The punishment, not quite there. Victor wanted to make the play. Sidestepping it, sees connects. Yado putting in so much work. The tether points the angle in an instantaneous trade and play.
In both of these hits, OpTic kind of segments their attack into two phases. First, they clear everything up towards map, drop the wall, cut noise. They leave the option that they could be rotating off, and then bring the wall up and use the rest of their utility to get onto site and take control. This entire attack half was a masterclass in calling from Finesse. Exploiting mid-control for most of the half, OpTic conditioned Xset to stay in place expecting the lurks. The final two B hits both played to the utility advantage of OpTic's composition and also played into the expectations that OpTic had conditioned into Xset. I started this video right after Champions before franchising news came out. Unfortunately, we'll never get to see OpTic's Pearl again. However, their dominating performance on the map is worth remembering and will likely shape the way the map is played into the 2023 season. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I plan to be coming out with a lot more content soon.